Now, many of you have asked me to review this channel called Secret Base. It's known for being objective and not pushing narrative or agendas. They were first SB Nation previously, and they have highly produced videos on sports topics. So I got a lot of requests to review this, so let's do it. I'm not afraid of the facts, and if they present something that I haven't considered, then it may change my mind on the topic. Let's see what they have to say.
In 2022, the U.S. Soccer Federation and the U.S. Women's National Team reached an agreement to pay the men's and women's teams equally. Hooray! What a wonderful world! And all it took to convince U.S. Soccer was 28 years of beef. In the 90s, the U.S. Women's National Team was comprised of stars like Michelle Akers, April Heinrichs, Julie Foudy, Mia Hamm, and Karen Jennings-Cabrera, pioneers of their sport who won a lot, had endorsement deals, and began the fight for equal pay. The imbalance started from the beginning. Men who made the World Cup roster in 1990 got $10,000. The women who made the World Cup roster in 1991 got t-shirts and a bonding experience. But okay, fine, U.S. Soccer President Alan Rothenberg said there was no money to pay the women. And the women could handle it. Considering it was a different time, just getting a chance to play soccer and represent the country was enough. When your hotel doesn't have water or electricity, make lemonade.
Now we're a minute 13 seconds in and there are big issues already. The narrator explained that the equal pay issue started in 1990. The men get $10K and the women get t-shirts. At first glance, this looks unfair, but they're leaving out some pretty important context here. The Men's World Cup started in 1930. So at 1990, it was about 60 years old. The Women's World Cup, it started in 1990. So they expected to be paid the same amount. The Women's World Cup was just starting out. They had to build a fan base, make money, etc. This is just like saying the WNBA, which started in 1996, is equal to the NBA, which started in 1946. It takes time for leagues to build fan bases.
Cards by candlelight sounds kind of nice, actually. But you know what's kind of unpalatable after 4 years? Hot lemonade you have to drink because there's no water or AC in the hotel and you aren't paid enough to buy food. Especially when you see that the men's team is drinking champagne and showering in water. With Julie Foudy leading the charge, the U.S. Women's National Team refused to sign the same old crappy contract in '95. Instead, they demanded a few basic dignities that the men were afforded without a thought.
So now they fast forward 5 years later to about 1995. And the framing here is pretty wild. They call these dignities. Remember, this is a league that's just starting out, 5 years old. As an example, when Major League Baseball started out, most players actually had second jobs. They didn't actually make enough money playing baseball because it was something new. NBA players used to fly coach up until the 90s. Here is Charles Barkley, an NBA Hall of Famer, talks about how he had to fly coach in this article. So when your sports league is new, you fly coach. The Women's World Cup was new, just like when the NBA, NHL, NFL, and MLB all went through the same growing process. Let's see if they mention this. All right, so first, I got to thank you guys for sending me this video from Secret Base because it is filled with like propaganda and lies. I didn't expect it to be so crazy. I've seen a couple of Secret Base videos, but they've never been this biased or filled with propaganda. Hold on. Seems like new addresses appeared on my credit report. You know, I don't have to worry about it because I have Aura, who's a sponsor of this video. Listen, I'm going to tell you people, I have sponsors for a lot of different products, and I like to always try to use the product at least once or twice before I send it out to you guys because I want to make sure it at least works or it does what it says. But Aura is at another level. I mean, it is great. See, there are what's known as data brokers, and they take and sell your personal information online, and they're now using AI. So why not use AI to help you protect yourself? And that's what Aura does. Aura can identify data brokers selling your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Data brokers are legally required to remove your information if you ask them to, but they make it super hard to do. So let Aura handle it for you. Aura contacts these companies on your behalf and opts out, stopping them from selling your personal information. It uses the latest in artificial intelligence to do the work for you. But you also get a lot more. You get identity protection, credit monitoring, password management, antivirus protection, a VPN, home title monitoring service, and obviously you get data broker removal. And this is all AI powered for just $12 a month. Now you have a choice. You can either continue to let people exploit and profit off your personal information, making you more vulnerable to scams, or you can go to www.aura.com/Nate the Lawyer to start your 2-week free trial. Also linked in the description and in the pinned comment. Click on the link and see what Aura can do for you. Now, let's get back to the video.
And there was something they wanted that the men didn't have: a yearly salary. At this time, both teams were only paid when they played a game. The men had a professional league to provide a salary, and before that, US Soccer paid them enough per game for them to live on. For the women, however, they absolutely were not making enough to live on. There was no professional league, and it's not like they could hold a regular job when they're traveling months at a time to play soccer. Players basically had to financially depend on their parents or their spouse or quit. The contract dispute was not resolved in time for the '95 World Cup, where the reigning champions finished a disappointing third. Being at war with their employer didn't help.
Part of the reason that we would all agree that we didn't win in 1995 was having the distraction of having to fight for those things.
The team wasn't going to be distracted again. They wanted a contract before the '96 Olympics. Speaking of the Olympics, the proposed contracts offered a pretty unbalanced bonus structure. To force US Soccer's hand, the players went on strike. The medal bonus became the main pressing issue, and US Soccer Secretary General Hank Steinbrecher got pretty aggressive in the press, essentially calling the players greedy and lazy. Pretty misleading considering the women were not asking for more money, just incremental distributions of the allocated prize money. Steinbrecher also said the Federation was right to offer more medal bonuses for the men. The men weren't expected to medal. The women were favored to win gold. Why reward the women for doing worse than expected? As he summed it up, we cannot reward mediocrity. But if the Federation regularly pays the men more, and the men aren't good enough to get any medal, aren't they rewarding the men's mediocrity?
So we have two leagues, one that started in 1990 and one that started in 1930. The men's league, that has been around for 60 years, pays the men more. They are more established, have a larger fan base. The women's league, that has been around for about 5 to 6 years, are getting paid less. Of course, the player from the older, more established leagues are going to be compensated more. They have an established fan base. Now, you may disagree with me, but it seems like this channel is trying to avoid the truth and context and kind of push a little propaganda here. According to this video, the WNBA should be paid as much as the NBA, or the Women's Football League should be paid as much as the NFL.
Anyway, Steinbrecher's comments helped nothing, and the women's team threatened to extend the strike through the Olympics. That forced US Soccer to fold, a bit. The women would get bonuses for silver or gold, but not bronze. Off to the Olympics, where they won gold, got the full bonus, and absolutely did not consider the fight for equality over. In '98, they went back to the Federation with an extremely similar list of demands, all stuff the men had, and while they're at it, can the women have enough money to live on? This was a good time to ask for better treatment. The team had never been more popular. There was a very famous commercial that essentially said Mia Hamm and Michael Jordan were equivalent in star power. Was US Soccer really going to continue to make a Michael Jordan-level star stay in roach motels and carry her own equipment and run out between training sessions to buy bagels for the team?
Oh my God, really? Mia Hamm is on par with Michael freaking Jordan? What are they talking about? You guys told me this channel was objective. They are objectively wrong here. I don't think I have to actually explain why Mia Hamm is not on par with Michael Jordan. If you think that Mia Hamm is on par with Michael Jordan's star power, hit me in the comment section to make your argument, because I think this is just bogus.
Yes, they were. Until Mia Hamm threatened to skip the '99 World Cup draw. Not having their most visible player at what is essentially a pep rally for the World Cup would be a rather large embarrassment for US Soccer. So the Federation said, fine, you can have these somewhat necessary things for your professional sports team that competes on the world stage. It was a small win for the players, but wins were hard to come by. Unless we're actually talking about soccer, of course. The US women's national team won the '99 World Cup in iconic fashion, in front of a sold-out crowd in an NFL stadium. And with that, The Federation completely changed their tune. So, happiness and prosperity to immediately follow? Well, first there was a quick contentious fight over a victory tour that the team set up without US Soccer because US Soccer hadn't been interested in a victory tour. The fight escalated to the Federation threatening to sue the players and block the tour, and it ended when Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy threatened to retire. That did the trick and the tour was on. In January of 2000, the team was due for a new contract. Thus, the Federation had a perfect opportunity to give the players some of the money Steinbrecher himself said they deserved. Or the Federation had an opportunity to get a little revenge for losing the Victory Tour battle. US Soccer refused to discuss the new contract for months, and then at the last minute said, just sign the old contract and go home. The players were pissed, not just about the money, but the lack of respect. Of course, money was still part of it. Shouldn't they have the same salary and the same respect as the men? No, said US Soccer. Why? Several reasons, apparently. Let's break them down. 1. The Federation is poor. Still? Steinbrecher said equal pay would mortgage their future.
This makes sense. The Women's Soccer League has only been around for 10 years. At this point, they want to be paid like the league that's been around for 70 years. That's pretty ridiculous. You have to build to get to that point.
So, okay, that sounds serious. We should consider... Oh, fuck off, Steinbrecher. Alright, what's the next argument? Next. Next. They pay the men more because FIFA pays US Soccer higher bonuses for the men's World Cup participation than the women's. Okay, true, but US Soccer can distribute the FIFA income any way they want. So the women asked, why not pool it and distribute it equally? After all, the women won their most recent World Cup, whereas the men came in last.
Now you hear this a lot. The women won the World Cup. The men never won a World Cup. Conclusion, the women should be paid more because they won World Cups. But to be fair, this is dumb. As an example, the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury won the WNBA championship, but the NBA's Phoenix Mercury has never won an NBA championship. Are we supposed to ignore the fact that the men's game brings in billions while the women's game only brings in about 5% of that? The men's World Cup, for instance, brought in $5 billion in 2018, while the Women's World Cup brought in $200 million. And that's me being nice. I thought this was supposed to be a rational take on the situation. Obviously, if you can make more money, you should get more money, not ask for handouts. You gotta go get it.
The public was not on the Federation's side despite the flawless PR campaign we just went over. But Steinbrecher didn't care about a popularity contest. Or doing what's fair or right.
Okay, people, I'm sorry. It seems like this channel doesn't care about the facts or the finances. They're just spreading propaganda at this point.
With the 2000 Olympics around the corner, the players felt they had no choice but to strike. The Federation said, great, good, we like that actually. But then the senior team talked to the under-20s, and the under-18s, and the under-16s, and it didn't take much convincing. The kids easily agreed to get on board. And what do you know, being backed into a corner with no possible team to field was all it took for US Soccer to give in, part way. The women would not get the security of a yearly salary, but they would get guaranteed pay for 8 months out of the year.
So remember, the Women's World Cup started in 1990. So based on where this video is at, we're about 10 years in. The women make less money than the men. The league's just starting out. And they demand to be paid as much as the league that's been in business for 70 years with billions in revenue. This video is starting to become a joke.
So not perfect, but not disrespectful either. Now, please enter this time machine. We're going to jump ahead many years to the next time the US women's national team won the World Cup, 2015. Some highlights of the years we're skipping over would be 3 Olympic golds, and hey, look at that! 10 years after they first requested it, the team got a yearly salary so they could earn a living playing soccer. Nice! Alright, 2015. Our stars include players like Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, Megan Rapinoe, Hope Solo, and Becky Sayerbrunn. Talented, popular athletes who were still not paid equally to the men. The 2015 World Cup Finals broke the record for most watched soccer game in TV history, men's or women's. Happiness and prosperity followed? Nope. Instead, the Federation, now in charge of the Victory Tour, scheduled games on absolutely terrible fields. Megan Rapinoe tore her ACL on a field that had all these metal plates in the ground.
US Soccer would schedule games against other countries, let's say like Vietnam, for instance. Now, the good people in Vietnam, even though with good intentions, didn't invest in state-of-the-art facilities. So the fields were inferior, but that was an issue for the host country, not being able to provide adequate facilities for the players. And this was because women's soccer wasn't making money really anywhere else except for the United States. Now, I do think there should have been a way to protect the players, but who was going to pay for it? So to be fair to the women's national team, I think this is a nice beef to have. You should have somebody at least out there checking the fields, making sure they're good, because you do have now players who are trying to improve, trying to get to that $1 billion mark that we were talking about earlier. And if you have them playing on rundown fields, it's going to make it even harder for them to do that. So this video, I think, is right to throw some shade at U.S. Soccer for not protecting their players and having them play on proper fields. You can't have them playing on metal planks. That just doesn't make any sense.
And they had to cancel a game because of field conditions. The men didn't have to deal with this sort of thing ever. Hey, Julie, good to see you're still in the fight. Though, I'm sorry, the fight's still raging. Let's talk later. Also at this time, there's some complicated legal stuff going on that basically boiled down to the players submitting a contract for equal pay and the Federation screaming, "You can't go on strike like last time! Tell him, Judge, tell him!" The 2015 president of U.S. Soccer, Sunil Gulati, wasn't any more willing to pay the women's team than Steinbrecher was. In fact, when he was asked if the women deserve equal pay, he turned the question around to ask, shouldn't revenue influence pay? Interesting you bring that up, Gulati, because in March of 2016, the players filed a wage discrimination complaint that said the women's team brought in $20 million more than the men, yet was paid 4 times less.
Now, this video just lied to you in an attempt to convince you that the women's team was being underpaid. How do you know this? The undisputed court documents. From 2015 to 2019, the U.S. women's national team was paid more than the men's team. This is like an undisputed fact. Here are the court documents. It is apparent that the women's national team players received more money than the men's national team players, both on a cumulative and an average per game basis. Indeed, the defendant's expert opines that from 2015 to 2019, payments to the women's national team totaled approximately $24 million and averaged $220,000 per game, whereas payments to the men's national team totaled approximately $18 million and averaged $212,000 per game. And if that's not enough, here is ESPN and a former player of the women's national team also telling you that the women made more than the men's.
That their pay structure is very different. And this has always been something that's hard to explain because when we came in as players on the women's side, this goes back to my days of playing, we wanted a more guaranteed type of contract. We wanted the security of injury protection because we didn't have big, large contracts with our professional clubs like the men do and did. And so we needed that security. And so we had injury protection, maternity protection, severance pay. And so there were a lot of other assurances we had in there. And it's a very different setup for the women. The judge obviously talked a lot about this in his judgment, and in his opinion, his 32-page opinion about that. So I think it was the fact that the women over the last 5 years made more money than the men, and 2, that the pay structure was very different.
So why is Secret Base lying and saying the women got paid 4 times less when we know for a fact from the court documents that this is not true? This is what I like to call fantastic propaganda.
And they used the Federation's own reports to get those numbers. Bam! What can you say to that, Gulati? Oh. How?
He's right. Their numbers were inaccurate and lies. The court showed that they were.
The Federation argued that yes, in 2015, the women brought in more money than the men, but that was an anomaly because it was an extremely successful year, what with the World Cup and all. Look to the past, they said. The men made more. Definitely don't look to the future where we're predicting the women will again bring in more money than the men. And if you do look at that, it's another anomaly. U.S. Soccer also had a problem with the whole "we're paid 4 times less" claim. Seems like this one could be simple. Just look at the numbers. Is one higher than the other? Yes. Fix it. But, U.S. Soccer cried, you can't just compare the numbers. The women got a yearly salary, which they wanted, and the men only get paid when they play a game. So, of course, the men are going to make more per game. End of discussion. Don't ask how much the salary is, and don't do the math to divide the salary by games played. Hey, we said don't.
Wow. This channel is now openly spreading false and misleading information. If YouTube was serious about misinformation, this video would receive a strike. The court looked at all the numbers, as we see right here. And when everything was factored in, the women made $220,000 per game, while the men made $212,000 per game. This is an undisputed fact. So why is this channel openly lying to you? This is horrible. They didn't even read the court documents. I'm honestly shocked at how dishonest this video is becoming. And this was made years after this judge's ruling.
In case you're still on the Federation's side here, or if you're on the player's side and want to get even madder just for fun, let's take a look at this op-ed Carly Lloyd wrote shortly after filing the wage discrimination complaint. Men got more per diem, more for sponsor appearances, and more money from ticket sales. Lloyd was sick of being disrespected. Where have I heard that before? Right. 2 years later, the players withdrew their complaint of wage discrimination because the EOC was taking forever. That allowed them to take the complaint to a bigger stage. On March 8, 2019, just months before the World Cup, the U.S. women's national team sued their employer for equal pay in the present, future, as well as the past. They wanted back pay. The timing looked great for the players. There was a new president of U.S. Soccer, Carlos Cordero, who had previously said the Federation should respect and value the women's team. Plus, more than ever before, sponsors were siding with the players. The fans were absolutely siding with the players, in a way you'd think would be impossible for U.S. Soccer to ignore.
Because the women's national team, the media, and this video was lying to them, hiding the facts. This is why everybody was siding with the women's national team. The women were actually paid more, both overall and on a per game basis. Those are the facts. Now let's hear this video continue to lie about them.
When the U.S. women's national team won yet another World Cup in 2019, the fans didn't chant USA.
Equal pay! Equal pay! Equal pay! Equal pay! Equal pay! Equal pay!
On such a scale, on the world stage, it felt like U.S. Soccer had to be moved to do something. And the Federation responded by spending money on lobbyists to fight the women's team instead of just paying them. What were the lobbyists even saying? Well, we happen to have their brightly colored presentation materials right here. They said U.S. Soccer actually paid the women more in 2018. Now, it's true, the women did receive more money in 2018, but the way U.S. Soccer is presenting the information is pretty misleading.
Hold on. This video was done after the court case. From 2015 to 2019, the women were in fact paid more. That's a fact. But she is spinning it to only claim that this was only in 1 year, 2018. No, but the court makes it very clear this was from 2015 through 2019. This is, again, fantastic propaganda.
Both the men and women get money for each game they play. So where does it say how many games each team played? It doesn't.
The court documents show it, and they did the math. Everything U.S. Soccer was saying was true. The women were paid more per game and overall. This was directly from the financial documents and bank statements that were submitted to the court under oath.
We'll go elsewhere for that. They also get bonuses for winning, so how many games did each team? It's not there, I'll just tell you. The women's team won a lot more than the men's. And lastly, the lobbyist handout failed to mention that the men didn't make the 2018 World Cup, which was a big hit to their income. So yes, the women got paid more, but they had to play and win more games than the men. And I guess U.S. Soccer was pretending they didn't know that?
This is not true. The women had guaranteed money, so they got paid no matter what. The men's team only got paid if they played. Now, during COVID, no games were played, and the men made zero, while the women made millions. So the women's national team got paid millions, and the men's national team got paid zero, and the women are claiming to be the ones underpaid. Make it make sense, people.
In March of 2020, the fight got even uglier. In an official court filing, the Federation said the men's and women's work was not equal, and thus the women did not deserve equal pay. Essentially, the U.S. Soccer Federation argued that because men's and women's bodies were inherently different, they can pay the women less. As you can imagine, this argument did not go over well in the public, with U.S. Soccer sponsors, nor with the players themselves. 2 days later, at the She Believes Cup, the team wore their warm-ups inside out as protest. Cordero resigned within a week. U.S. Soccer replaced him with a former U.S. women's national team player. That could be interesting, but before anyone got a chance to get excited, a judge dismissed the equal pay portion of the lawsuit. He ruled the players could still sue for equal conditions, but it looked like he bought the Federation's misleading arguments. I do love that Sports Illustrated mentions the judge's age as if he's too old to possibly understand the nuance, because it does seem like he missed some of the nuance.
The judge did something even worse than that. He looked at the evidence that the women's national team was offered the men's deal and rejected it for stability and for guaranteed money. The fact that the women were paid more, and let's just be clear, the women's claims were lies to exploit the woke trend to essentially extort money from U.S. soccer. So let me just put this simply. The women's national team went to court and said they were being paid less than the men's team. U.S. soccer then responded by bringing in the checkbooks and showed that they were lying, and the judge dismissed the case. And then to attack the judge's age is embarrassing. Facts won this case, not this BS argument.
It was a crushing blow to the players. It was like the rug had been pulled out from under them, making them fall, land on their backs, where all they could do was stare at the glass ceiling. And someone had carved "We win, you lose, haha, love US soccer" into the glass? What the hell? The players appealed the judge's ruling and settled the equal conditions section of the lawsuit. After the settlement, U.S. Soccer President Cindy Parlow-Cone said she wanted to work toward equal pay. Well, we've heard it before, Parlow-Cone. Oh, hold up, look what happened 2 years later. U.S. Soccer settled the back pay portion of the lawsuit. They didn't have to. There wasn't any indication the appeal would work, but they did anyway. This was a huge win. Because of the money, yeah, but also it was an admission of wrongdoing from U.S. Soccer.
This was not an admission. This was them caving to the woke mob. Thank God we got the facts from the court to show that all they did was lie, and U.S. Soccer folded because of public pressure. Remember, the facts show this whole thing was a lie.
No more claims of anomalies, no more gaslighting with cherry-picked numbers, no more lobbyists. Instead, respect.
This video is nothing but lies and cherry-picking numbers. The irony of it all.
And Parlow-Cone pledged to pay the men's and women's teams equally in the future. Should we trust her? She had just been pretty cool. 3 months later, in May 2022, it happened. Equal pay became a reality for U.S. soccer. Here are the numbers, but I think Julie Foudy summed it up best with a one-word tweet. What a glorious moment. Made a little less glorious because it took 28 years of beef to get here.
This video is going to ignore the fact that U.S. Soccer is paying the women's team millions in benefits that the men's team don't get. But since they both get the same cash payments, we're supposed to say everything is equal. No, the facts show conclusively that the men's team is actually being underpaid, but no one cares. This video is a masterclass in gaslighting and mistruths to push a woke narrative that is factually untrue. And the scary part is this channel has the same facts as I do, but they choose to ignore it and give you a narrative. Now, I don't know if Secret Base doesn't want you to know the truth, but let me know where I went wrong in the comment section. Am I wrong to rely on the facts and evidence produced under oath at court? Now, if you're here at the end of this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so I can continue to make these type of videos. And at the end, don't push narratives, just push the facts. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.